I'm Dana Perino. This is a Fox News alert. A terrifying ordeal in the skies at 30,000 feet. A Southwest Airlines jet blew an engine today midair while on its way to New York City, leaving an opening in the plane that nearly sucked somebody out. One passenger is dead. Julie Banderas joins us from our newsroom with the full story. Julie.
Yeah, that's right. One person dead, several others injured on board this Southwest Airlines jet. The engine actually exploded in midair, 30,000 feet in the sky. The flight from New York to Dallas made an emergency landing in Philadelphia this morning. And in the thick of it all, a harrowing rescue in midair. There are multiple reports. Witnesses saw a piece of shrapnel from the engine blow out a window, and a female passenger was then partially sucked out of that window hole before her fellow flyers scrambled to her rescue. She unfortunately later died, still unknown what her injuries were that caused her death, sadly. But listen to one passenger describe his horror story.
Totally surreal. I have my wife is in her third trimester, our first child. So I spent a lot of my time trying to articulate what I wanted my final words to be to my unborn child, to my wife, to my parents.
Unbelievable. The FAA says the emergency landing on Flight 1380 happened at 11:20 this morning after the crew reported damage to one of the aircraft's engines, the fuselage, and a window. Passengers are seen exiting the plane using those air stairs. Some of the passengers have been sharing their harrowing stories on social media, such as Marty Martinez. He briefly, in fact, went live even on Facebook. And there you see him wearing an oxygen mask. And in his post, he wrote this: "Engine exploded in the air and blew open window 3 seats away from me." Imagine that, being one of his friends on Facebook reading that. He says the explosion injured a female sitting in the seat next to the window. The plane departed from New York's LaGuardia Airport. Tracking data from FlightWare.com shows the flight was heading west over New York's southern tier before abruptly turning toward Philadelphia. But Dana, when you look back at these pictures, you have to wonder how incredible and how many heroes were on board that plane. Not just the pilots to land that thing with one engine, but the crew members and the passengers on board that tried to save this woman. Sadly, she later died at the airport, at the hospital.
Julie, is that confirmed it was the same woman?
We do believe that is the same woman, but we don't know exactly what the cause of her death was.
Okay.
But we do know that she was hit in the head by shrapnel. So we don't know if she was conscious or not when she was actually sucked through the hole of the window. It's a very horrifying story.
Thanks, Julie. We appreciate your reporting. So, Kimberly, the NTSB is on the ground. It is the first passenger fatality on a U.S. airline since 2009.
Can you imagine?
Pretty good track record.
Pretty good track record. Very sad. You know, obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of the woman who is deceased with that, the reporting that Julie just did. But, you know, obviously the airplanes are safe. I mean, people say generally flying is safer even than driving, but sometimes these type of catastrophes, unforeseen, can happen. But what you see here again is the human spirit, people jumping in, trying to help one another, and then thoughts and reflections about, you know, your life. We get up in the morning and we expect that we're going to go to bed that night. Just gives you a bit of pause to say sometimes it was totally random things can happen out of the blue and in the blue, like this particular situation. But they'll do a full and thorough investigation, get all the forensics, find out what happened, and then there'll be issues as to whether or not there's any culpability, liability on the part of Southwest. Was there any in terms of the engine logs or the records, maintenance logs for the airplane, to determine if there was any kind of forewarning that something might have been wrong before this happened.
So, you know, Dana, when you said nothing since 2009, you're exactly right. But, you know, for me, as a frequent flyer gambler, I always think if I get on a big plane, I'm not going to have a problem. The small planes, we go back to 2009, there was a small plane, I think, that had a de-icing problem in Buffalo. And before that, you go back to like 2006, and it was a small plane coming out of Kentucky, and it had a short runway, didn't quite get up, and then crashed. And then you lose, I think in both cases, you lost 45, 50 people. In this case, you're on a big plane, a Boeing 737. They never have problems. I don't know when the last time an engine exploded, but you never hear of this. This is really an extraordinary event for people who fly airplanes, because we all think, American aviation is so safe, and the big planes never have a problem.
People worry about props.
Right,
Planes.
it's
Oh,
the
don't get
little
on the
planes.
prop.
I don't like getting on the little planes, but this is a big one.
And
That's why I only fly
risk-wise.
private. I mean, it's really the only way to go, Dana.
Yeah, well, that's good to know, Jesse. We'll mark that down.
Jesse, the everyman, right?
He
So
is-
relatable.
He's a man of the people.
But landing back in
Yes.
Philly, leaving New York on the way to Dallas, and then to Philly, that was probably a long 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this happen to me once. It wasn't obviously this severe, but I remember texting my mother saying, "I love you," and thinking I was going to go down. I guess the lesson
What did
is
you
What
text
was your
back?
mom text?
She said,
What was a mom text?
be
Who
nice
is
to
this?
Comey. And, I guess maybe one of the lessons is when they're doing the safety demonstration to pay attention. Because if you're in the exit row and you don't know what you're doing or you don't know how to operate your air mask, that's very important. It looks like there were a lot of heroes out there. You take safety for granted when you fly in this country. This never happens in America, and it shouldn't happen in America. We're too advanced and too well regulated. And obviously, this was a freak accident, and the investigation's going to show what happened. But you hear about this in other countries a lot, in Africa and Egypt and Malaysia or Ukraine. And it just speaks to how, kind of advanced and proficient the American airline industry is. I hope Southwest does right by these passengers and gives them more than a free upgrade for the next flight. They have to take care of these people. This is one of the things that'll leave you, scarred forever. And the stock price has taken a huge slide today, recovered a little bit. But Southwest, it's ranked really high, according to the other airlines. But at the same time, they've had a lot of PR disasters. They've had computers crash. They've had these emotional support dogs bite people. They've had fights. They've had to drag
Oh my
women
God.
out that were fighting and kicking and screaming. They serial overbook flights. They don't do that anymore. So hopefully Southwest can recover from this, and all these people, I hope, are recovering too.
Greg, one thing that's really different now than even since 2009, this last time that there was a fatality on a plane, is that social media now allows you to actually experience it and like to see it and to, as Julie was saying, that's quite harrowing, but we wouldn't have known any of that before social media.
Yeah, and we probably wouldn't have led with it because I don't think we should have led with this story.
Oh,
I
boy.
mean, no, there are 40 million flights a year. There wasn't a single commercial jet fatality in 2017. But you can't lead a show with flights that land safely because that's boring. But to your point, which is a very good point, because you have the video and stuff that makes it more interesting. And sometimes that makes a story bigger than it should be in many different ways.
It's amazing when you see the flight trackers. You ever see the video
Yeah.
when they show all the flights going over every little inch of the country, how safe it actually is? Because this
Yeah.
never happens.
Yeah,
And
I mean-
thousands of flights, up in the air all at once. It's amazing how they're able to make
Yeah,
sure
we have a
everyone
pretty
lands
safe
safely.
system.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the fact that 600,000 people die every year from heart disease, and I guess, that's not as exciting a visual.
No, but there's something serious here, which is my old boss, Ben Bradley at the Post, used to say, we don't cover all the safe landings at National
That's my
Airport.
point.
And that's
Yeah.
your point, and I
Yeah.
understand it. But at the same time, to understand what happened with someone in a
Right.
window seat who is being pulled out of the window while the plane is in the air, Greg, and other people
Yeah.
are over there, and they're, according to the accounts on board, she was bleeding. There's blood all over. I mean, that's a pretty wild experience.
I understand.
What happens, Kimberly, from the legal standpoint, from the Southwest lawyers, NTSB lawyers, et cetera, and also possibly for the passengers?
Well, right. Obviously, there's probably going to be a tremendous amount of civil lawsuits, but it's going to depend on the results of the investigation, what they determine happened, whether there was human error, whether there was any kind of conscious disregard for a known risk, acting in defiance of that, or just negligence, or saying, okay, you know what, we'll let this plane fly for however many more hours when perhaps they should have acted. We don't know this yet, but these are the types of things that they will be looking for in terms of the records. Now, we are pretty scrupulous in terms of how we keep our records and all of the flight tracking, maintenance. It's very important because one time is one time too many. If you let a plane go up in the air and you clear it to fly and something is, terribly amiss, things can happen in general. So if there's any idea of something that's malfunctioning or engine lights going on or something like that, very curious to see the flight history for the past, say 50 to 100 flights that this particular airplane went on. Generally speaking, it's, phenomenal phenomenal aeronautics for a 737, and they've been proved to be very reliable, have a tremendous safety record. So now we'll have to see what went wrong here and how Southwest can improve upon it. They do a lot of short flights, quick commuter flights, that type of thing with their airplanes.
All right, ahead, Stormy Daniels appears on TV again, this time revealing a sketch of the man she says threatened her to keep quiet about her alleged affair with President Trump. That and more coming up.
I've seen it all. I've seen politics and government from the inside, and I can see what's wrong with it and what's broken and what needs to be changed.
Wherever I smell hypocrisy, liberals, conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, I will go after them.
We don't have time to dance around the issue. I like to get right to the point. I just come at the news with a different viewpoint.
My job is getting to the bottom line of what is the American people's truth.
Today, Stormy Daniels appeared live on The View with her attorney. They unveiled a sketch of the man she says threatened her 7 years ago to keep quiet about her alleged affair with President Trump. They're offering a $100,000 reward for information about him. A lot of people are asking, why are they going through all of this now? What exactly is their end game? Here were their answers.
I think we've been clear all along for weeks. We want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
On a selfish note, it is my chance to defend myself and to make people realize how and why this happened so I can tell my side. If I can inspire or convince a woman who feels that she has been intimidated or bullied or is too afraid to come forward to an accuser and an attacker, then I'm happy. That you absolutely have the right and you should stand up for yourself and you should not be afraid or bullied.
Stormy and Avenatti showed up yesterday at Michael Cohen's court appearance to block prosecutors from viewing files seized in the FBI's raid. Meghan McCain was suspicious about why they were there.
It seems like a publicity stunt on some level. I mean, I think yesterday, because you didn't have anything to do with the case, it seemed a little like you were just trying to get attention, which I understand that you're being sued by our president, but it does seem like you're benefiting a lot.
Yes, I've gotten more bookings than usual, but I'm doing the job that I've been doing for the last almost 20 years. Yes, there's a lot of publicity, but I didn't do it for that because this isn't what I want to be known for. As a matter of fact, I hid for quite a while, and it's overwhelming and intimidating and downright scary a lot of times.
Let's put the sketch back up on the screen, please, if we could all see the sketch.
Yes,
we're not making fun of the sketch because, you know, she does believe that she was threatened. Greg, what do you think about the sketch and the appearance?
I have to say, I agree with Joy Behar. Didn't she say he's very handsome? Very handsome. When I thought it was immediately, I thought it was John Bon Jovi.
I can see a resemblance.
Yeah, but it does smell, this smells a little fishy to me because if you want to find this guy, you should be offering a reward. Because I don't see how this is going to help you find anybody. It looks like a stock shot of a model, and it just looks like they've taken something out of a catalog.
I think they are offering a reward.
Are they?
$100,000.
Oh, well, that's good. That's a start. That's a start. But the real injustice of the Stormy saga is that I had to watch The View. And by the way, we have to remind everybody, this is not some noble crusade to right the injustices of a victim. This is to unseat a president. And we should just admit this is all born from an irrational reaction to an election that was lost. And we're devoting a lot of time to distracting the president from running things. That's the point, to handicap a president.
Well, Dana, you've been asking a lot about what her end game is and how she's benefiting, and I did a deep dive on Stormy for this segment, and she has doubled her appearance fees. She's now making $75K, which is just about as much as Gutfeld's paid for a speech. A lot of money. So every time she shows up at a strip club, she makes $75,000, and she's doing a nationwide strip club tour. And she's already been to Vegas and New York and D.C. That's kind of how she's profiting.
But my point is, actually, when I say endgame, what I want to know is, if I had a chance to ask her, and I think they kind of asked her this, which is, what does she see as a successful conclusion to this period? Unless she doesn't want a conclusion to it. Maybe that is part of it. She says she wants the chance to defend herself and the chance to tell her full story. I don't know what's left of the story to tell.
I don't know either, and I don't think anybody knows exactly how this case is going to...
That's never the point, though. The point is that the story has to keep shifting, right?
Right. I mean,
it has to keep shifting.
They love these appearances with Michael Cohen, and they're probably going to be at every single one of them as they move forward. Juan, what do you think about Stormy Daniels, and any advice for Dana, who's going to be on The View on Thursday? Is that
Not
true?
talking about this.
Okay, not talking about
Let's
this.
not conflate the stories.
Gee, I wonder what's going to come up.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, so let's just take her at her word for a second. She
Yes.
says she doesn't like being bullied and intimidated.
Okay.
And if you take her at her word, she's saying that the tactics that were used against her, where apparently the man in the sketch shows up in a parking lot and threatens her and her child, was something that put a fear of life or death in her. And then, of course, there's Michael Cohen. And Michael Cohen's modus operandi, his tactics are hush money and intimidation to tell people, hey, if you publish this, we're going to go after you. It's the end of your life. You're going to go to hell, all that. And we know National Enquirer also was paying off people, keep quiet. So there's a lot of stuff around here that, it just strikes me as threatening. And I'm surprised that she has continued in this way, because I think most people would have backed out by now. And as you point out, though, Jesse, she's being sued.
Yes, because
So-
she broke the NDA.
Right. So then that gives her an incentive to say, oh, no, you think you're going to shut me up again? I'm not going to do it. Now, I don't know. I don't know how to judge all that. I'm just a witness, but I wouldn't necessarily condemn her or, Greg says it's all about politics. I don't think that this is a political player.
No, I don't actually think she's the bad person in this. And one of the things I pointed out a long time ago is no one's ever bashed her. We've always been we've never denied one thing she said. I believe everything that she says about the relationship with Trump. That's not about that. It's about the people surrounding this and how they're using this to unseat a president.
Kimberly, she's very obviously good at self-promotion. She's very competitive. She's been a successful performer in the industry. She's won many awards, and she obviously is a smart businesswoman.
You really did do
You
it.
did do a lot of research.
I actually researched this segment more than the plane.
Even before the name ever came up. You were on top of this story for years.
If I could change
Kimberly,
colors,
save me,
I
please.
would.
On behalf of your mother, I'm going to save you, being a mom myself.
I hope she's not watching.
Okay, so here's the deal. Obviously, her whole career thrives on, publicity, promotion, marketing, right? We'd be naive to suggest otherwise. So she's being honest, saying, look, I've been doing these appearances. I'm getting more money. I'm getting double the amount of bookings. So she is acknowledging that she's profiting from this whole, experience. Do I still think it has been tough on her? It seems to be, in terms of what she said, relayed what happened, especially as it relates to the person that came up to threaten her. They put up the sketch, the whole deal. So, they're covering all their bases. But I agree with Meghan McCain that she showed up at the courthouse. Then they went and rushed to the podium afterwards with prepared comments, and to do this, to try to milk this for as long as you can. What do we know about this relationship with the president? I mean, was it a relationship? It sounds like a transaction, to be honest. She's a businesswoman, and so, she was there with him. There was one occasion. Then after that, there was some communications.
I think what it is.
And then the threatening.
It was never a big deal. It was a transaction.
Right.
It was until
And then she
I
got
think
paid.
she became a pawn. Because I don't think if you look at the old interviews, I think it was In Touch Weekly, it was something. It was people knew about this, and I think that she was okay. Well, she was okay with this.
She was.
And then it changed. And then when he became president, and there was politics involved. That's when it changed.
Well, also, remember, it changes also because she never said anything. She did not break the NDA until the Wall Street Journal ran a news story about it in January. And that's when they decided, oh, this could be our vehicle to help unseat the president. But she didn't actually break the NDA until the news story broke. And then she said she wanted to defend herself.
And see Dana on The View on Thursday. Governor Jerry Brown back at war again with the president over the border, and he's also taking aim at Fox News next.
A new showdown between President Trump and California. Mr. Trump chided the state's governor this morning on Twitter, saying, looks like Jerry Brown and California are not looking for safety and security along their very porous border. He cannot come to terms for the National Guard to patrol and protect the border. The high crime rate will only get higher. Responding to the president this morning, Governor Brown said he believes there is a compromise to be made on sending National Guard troops to the border to help the feds, but believes the administration is waging war against this state.
Is this a war on California? Is this a war on the engine of our American economy and innovation? Go to Silicon Valley. Look at these people. You can just say these are people who come from somewhere else. This is the genius of America. We didn't get built on just the indigenous people. Far from it. We destroyed the indigenous people and had nothing but immigration. That's the story of California. I think we ought to remember that as we chart our rules. But they're totally paralyzed because the Republican Party has this little narrow group of fearful people that think that's how they get elected.
And then there's this. Fox's Griff Jenkins caught up with Brown to get answers on some of the controversial practices in California, and the governor blamed, of course, Fox News for exploiting these issues.
The leaders of these local communities, from mayors to sheriffs, are saying that your law favors the rights of criminal illegal aliens over the rights and the safety of those communities. Your response?
Absolutely false. And I'd like to see a scintilla of evidence that would support such an outlandish Fox proposition. We've heard of fake news, we have Fox News too.
What do you say to the families of victims of criminal illegal aliens who say that had the law not been in place, they wouldn't have this crime?
Here's the problem. I think Fox News exploits this issue.
Taking a shot, are you, Governor Moonbeam? All right, Greg.
You and I share something in common. We both had to endure Jerry Brown twice. There's 7 billion people on this planet, and he got to be governor of California twice. He was the worst thing.
And mayor of Oakland.
And mayor of Oakland. He was the worst thing about my childhood. Do you want to bring back my chicken pox? I mean, seriously, he was governor of California once, and he was terrible. And they brought him back. Why don't you bring back the gas crisis?
That's where
or the drought.
Came. Yeah.
Why don't you bring back all the horrible things about California that happened under this guy's watch? It is. I don't understand. It's why does California keep going back to an ex that made their lives miserable in the 70s?
Not
and
me.
by the way, you can't choose. You cannot choose the laws to follow that you like, because that doesn't make any sense. Can I go to California right now and decide to violate certain laws because I don't like those laws? Will they protect me if I decide that I want a sanctuary city for my own criminality? If laws aren't followed by everybody, then they are whims.
Wow, I like that, actually.
Thank you. It's a T-shirt.
Okay, cool. All right, Dana, so what do you make of this? He's obviously taken a strong stance and position against Fox News, blaming Fox for the facts, I guess, the facts of what has occurred here. He's basically on defensive because he's in this battle with the president, which has been ongoing on this issue.
It's not just the president that he's in battle with. There's several cities within California that have rejected the governor's, the state's plan for as a sanctuary state, and they're saying we don't want to be a part of that. We want exempted from it. And to the point that if he doesn't like the laws, I mean, California has more congressional members than anybody, than any other state, I believe, and so they could try to change the laws. But the fact is that the will of the people is that those laws are not going to change. People actually want these laws enforced. And so his problem is not just with the president. I think he's probably feeling a lot more political heat than he anticipated, and then that's why he took the shot at Fox News, because that's the easy shot.
It's the easy
Changing
shot.
the law is much harder.
Exactly, and actually listen to both sides and do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That was a lazy, cheap shot, and it's an easy way out when you're faced with a tough question. What do you say to the victims of illegal alien criminals? He could have said something really heartfelt and maybe tried to bridge the divide, but he exploited it and I think moved people away. California's been at war with the federal government for years. They've been at war over immigration, climate, marijuana, everything. There's always California and there's always the rest of the country. That's not new. And the Border Patrol, they're just getting freed up by the National Guard. The National Guard's not out there apprehending people. They're doing stuff in the back office, off the front lines to support. Now, listen, if I was an illegal alien and I was poor and I had no future, I'd come to this country too. At the same time, you have to respect the line. You have to respect the law. You can't let everybody come in or else that cheapens the entire system. California is paying the price of this, though. I mean, there's the cost of illegal immigration, according to the latest study, $23 billion. That is a lot of money the taxpayers are paying for illegal immigration, and you can't say they make up with it from the farm workers.
Wow. Okay, so Juan, do you echo the sentiments of the governor?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
because
how did I know?
the governor said very clearly he was sending the troops down to the border, and President Trump congratulated him and thanked him. And then there was the questioning, well, how come California, with a Democratic governor, Jerry Brown, is falling in line with states like New Mexico, Texas, Arizona with Republican governors? Is he playing? And he said, well, no, I'm sending them there because I think you got to battle drug smuggling. I think you want to battle human trafficking. That's fine. But he said when it comes to this stuff about illegal immigration, he said, wait a second, there is no illegal immigration authority. That's not any crisis at the border. So what are you doing? You are launching a political attack here. It's a political offensive, and he sees it as somehow demonizing immigrants, which is, oh my God, imagine that.
He co-opted Trump's language.
Yes.
He co-opted his language. It was clever, but he just stole Trump's message.
What is that? What was the language?
The language was he was fighting drug traffickers.
Yeah, that's what he said. But you know what the big news is today, bigger than this, even though this is interesting because you got Jerry Brown versus Donald Trump, is that the Supreme Court, with Neil Gorsuch, Trump's guy, as the key vote, said it's not going to be constitutional, not going to be allowed to deport somebody because they've been convicted of a crime, which is the basis of so much of Trump's argument.
Violent crime.
Can we be clear, though, what Gorsuch was saying? The Gorsuch argument was that the Congress passed a law that doesn't say what it says. He's not saying that you don't deport illegal aliens, right? But he's being true to the law. And I think a lot of people are saying, oh, maybe Gorsuch is more liberal than President Trump thought. I don't think so. I think that what he's saying is that if Congress wants these laws to be enforced, they have to pass them in a way that is written that makes it clear.
Right, and I just think to me, that is an incredible vote by Gorsuch, and, you know, from the left, kudos to Gorsuch for standing up for the law.
Well, he's saying follow the law.
Right.
Everyone should.
So
it's a good place in line.
You like
every other
now you like him.
Follow the law.
You got me.
Jim Comey responds to President Trump's suggestion he should be jailed. Next, stay with us.
Welcome back. Today, former FBI Director Jim Comey's book, A Higher Loyalty, hit the stores nationwide. Former FBI Director Comey sat down earlier today for his first live interview on the memoir. He had this response to President Trump's suggestion that Comey should be in jail.
That is not normal. That is not okay. First of all, he's just making stuff up. But most importantly, the President of the United States is calling for the imprisonment of a private citizen, as he's done for a whole lot of people who criticize him. That is not acceptable in this country. I hope people read the book and see why the rule of law is such an important value in this country. And key to that is that the president doesn't get to decide who goes to jail.
Well, it's not a one-way fight. Remember, Comey said that this president's unfit, unethical. I'm going to ask my man Jesse to respond on the part of President Trump.
Here, here,
What a
ladies and
stretch.
gentlemen.
What a stretch.
One of the reasons Trump won that second debate against Hillary, remember the line? If I were president, you'd be in jail right now. Oh. It's a great line, and he's used it very effectively. And this is similar. This is just what he's saying, but the truth backs him up. When Comey brings the memos outside the FBI headquarters and then leaks them, under both FBI standards and Federal Records Act, those memos belong to the FBI. You could hit him with theft of government property. That's a misdemeanor. Only a year and a small fine, or disclosure of classified information, that's a felony. 10 years, $250K. That's a little more serious. So according to the law, and I know Comey is a strict guy, he's an ethical guy, he does everything by the book. So if we're going to do everything by the book, Mr. Comey, you are facing prison time.
Wow, 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 wow. Dana, I think the contrary point of view coming from Comey is that he's trying to rouse the country to go out and deal with a man that he says is not fit to be president. I read today, though, that some FBI people say, this is not the role for an FBI director.
Well, and he actually, in the NPR interview that he does today, he constantly is saying, well, maybe I could have done that, maybe I could have done that, and there's lots of different ways that you could have done it. It was interesting today that in Minnesota, an FBI agent pled guilty to leaking to the media. And so there are consequences being paid by FBI agents for the very thing that we're talking about with other FBI agents, including McCabe. The other thing is that what he has done is alienated himself so much. I'm sure the book will sell. That goal is not a problem. But that I don't think he's trying to win any friends necessarily. No. The Democrats are more mad at him than the Republicans. And kind of for good reason. If you read through, especially this NPR interview, it was pretty eye-opening. But the other thing it has done, it has given the Clinton team yet another excuse to explain why she lost the election.
Oh, thanks,
so
Comey.
now they will say it is all about Comey, which is probably a better excuse than saying Russian collusion.
That's true.
But it doesn't get you to figure out a way how to win in 2020.
So do you think that's legit, that Comey is to be blamed for announcing 10 days before the election he's reopening it? Doesn't mention that he's also got an investigation going on Trump?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he had a lot of missteps, and quite frankly, he should know better because he's a former prosecutor and also former director of the FBI. But I'll tell you what, we're going to know who's who and who's telling the truth here because the IG report that's going to come out in May. So he better hope he knows better than if he made prior consistent, inconsistent statements in classified or unclassified materials, then on the book, then with George Stephanopoulos, and he's just talking, NPR, all of the above. I got to tell you something. You're supposed to get approval for a book like this, especially in the middle of an investigation. Mm-hmm. But Comey is actually favoring, profits and personal, pandering to actually being concerned about justice and allowing the investigation to go forward that Mueller is doing. This puts the witnesses, the whole investigation in jeopardy. Who are they going to be able to put forward that's going to be credible? People are now going to have all of these different things that they can be impeached on. So in a weird way, from a legal perspective, he's almost done President Trump a favor because he has completely made a mess of this investigation. Did you think about that?
Greg, let's go back to Dana's point for just a second about the Democrats, the liberals being so upset. Lanny Davis says he doesn't use the word liar.
Right.
Lanny Davis is a friend to Hillary Clinton from back in college and was a lawyer for the Clintons. But he says liar is exactly what he thinks of Jim Comey.
This is why I believe James Comey should be named Man of the Year, because we are a divisive country and he is uniting us. He is able to unite the left and the right in their universal hatred for him. This is very hard to do. I can't tell if he's just a fierce independent or he's Inspector Clouseau, where, he infuriates everyone by the consequences of his incompetence. But I do feel that he is overstaying his welcome. He's going to do a lot of shows this week. He's like a jar of almost empty mayo. And you're scraping the bottom with a spatula. It's time to get rid of the jar.
You know what it is? It's like getting a little Kato Kalin-ish, isn't it? Where
yes.
You're like overstaying the welcome. You're like, okay, move on.
Yes. Kato Kalin looked like the sketch, by the way.
Oh.
Yes.
Where's his 100,000?
Where does his He could use it.
Oh
no,
my
you
gosh.
got it. You figured it out.
All right, you guys, slow down. We got to go to the advertising. Why a comedian has filed a restraining order against, well, you guess who, but I'm thinking it's President Trump. Greg will fill you in next.
Say we can go where we want to.
Maria Doe, that's not her real name, is a comedian. Here's her picture. Never seen her before, right? She just went to court to change that. There she filed a restraining order. Was it against a violent stalker or an unstable ex? No, it was against Donald Trump. She cited anxiety over his comments on nuclear war. So she went to court, waited in line, filled out less funny. I doubt the women there had the time for clever PR stunts. But because Marie is cool and hates Trump, she'll be cheered by her peers. Not so much by real victims seeking real protection. But what do they know about comedy? So I think, Dana, she's since backed off. I didn't mention her name because I felt that would feed into the PR thing, and I figured don't give it to her.
You're being true to your idea of not giving these people attention.
Exactly, but I think she might have worked. I meing, you think this, if you're going to do a stunt, don't do it at other people's expense.
Right.
You know? I'm thinking of all the stunts I've done.
The other
By the way,
ones.
you ought to know. Yeah.
It says that she's well known for her jokes about depression and anxiety. That's not very funny.
Yeah, it is to me, but
I don't think
I
that's
have
very
it.
funny.
Oh, yours is amazing on a plane. It's just so nuts.
Let's not bring up planes.
Yes, Greg.
Yes. Anyway, I don't think she's up on current events, Jesse.
Greg, I think you just totally got hosed by this person.
Yeah.
She wanted to do this stunt, and
Yes.
now she's the subject of a Gutfeld monologue.
But
Is
she
this gonna
won.
be in your
But there is no name.
She won.
But there's no name.
That's a
I
little
did not
safety
catch the
valve,
name.
but everybody sees what's going on here, and she got a huge promotional plug, and you're school-marming her about gumming up the works at the courts. You know.
You don't think that's? I think that's
Oh, yeah.
really bad.
It's not like she called 911 and did a prank.
Waiting in line while somebody else is behind
Wow.
you to do a stunt. What, no,
Okay.
Kimberly,
You're like, "Get off my lawn."
Kimberly, you're a prosecutor. You deal with restraining orders. You think it's funny to use a restraining order?
No.
As a political stunt?
No, because there are people that really need them. that
That's
are
my
suffering
point.
I don't think
order
it's funny.
protection,
You're welcome.
I don't think
domestic
it's funny
violence
either.
victims, sexual abuse victims. Okay, it's there are very serious cases out there where they're utilized to protect public safety and an individual's safety, perhaps even
Exactly.
from someone who would want to do them harm or kill them. That being the case, you still did this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you believed in it, and Jesse threw shade at you.
Yeah.
I did.
I
And if
summarized
someone
the
had
entire
filed a
segment.
restraining order against Obama, I would have had him on my show.
Yeah. Oh, at least you were honest. Probably the most honest thing.
Honest. Water's
All right.
world. Wacky world.
All right, Juan.
Juan?
Well, I mean,
Juan's filing an amicus
Why are
brief.
comedians so emotionally traumatized by
What was
Trump?
it? You know, I get
Why are
stuck
they
at my
so-
age sometimes.
Yeah.
What's the name of that comedian that was holding his head, that woman comedian?
Kathy Griffin.
Kathy Griffin. So she's back now.
was- I
She's
know.
back. And I don't know, maybe it's kind of desperate. I mean, on the other hand, I'm not going to ever make fun of somebody suffering from depression, but I do think
No, she
that
makes
You make
jokes
fun of
about
Greg
it.
all the time.
yeah, no, but
She does.
But she says it made her more anxious, Kimberly, because of Trump's language about my big button and all that. I don't know.
Oh my
Now,
God.
she should
come
watch the
on.
South Park episode about this.
So, you know-
It'll cheer her up. It'll be just fine.
It's just so nuts.
But aren't the North and South coming together?
Yes.
That was
So
in the
what's she so
monologue.
anxious
Oh,
about?
we gotta go.
All right, one more thing. Up next.